What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with the next episode of Critical Thinking, my theory crafting series, where we talk about anything and everything regarding our PvP, PvE strategy, so on and so forth. Talking about my personal thoughts on the game based on my experiences and whatnot. In addition to some people that have theory crafted with me over the last 2 years. So. This video is going to be focused on Guild Wars, and we're going to be talking about two different units, the werewolves, Eshir and Jultan. Okay, so and how I use them in Guild versus Guild 3 and Legend ranked Guild Wars people. So the reason for this kind of video kind of stemmed on the concept of what we see in the top 10. So if some of you guys are not in G3 guilds, top 5, top 10 guilds or whatnot, we see a common thing along the way, and with regards to the strength of their combinations of units and so on and so forth. Generally speaking, they're running double threats, and generally speaking, they're utilizing units that are exceptionally strong as far as their overall quality, what they bring to the table. So you're going to see a lot of units that can do what we can do in 4 units when it comes to arena, right? When we think about arena, we're bringing in four different units, and so when we think about Guild Wars, moving over to Guild Wars, we have to pick the best units at our disposal that can do everything our 4-man team can do. And truth being said, we not every unit can do everything, but there is a handful of Nat 5s, Nat 4 and Nat 5s out there respectively that can mimic what a 4-man team can do. So generally speaking, some of these top ranked players not only are bringing single target, double target threats here, but they're bringing the threats that will are bringing the key like support based units that allow them to do 2 or 3 different things without needing that 4th spot. So when I think about some of the common teams that I face, I realize that we have this misconception that in order to counter these Nat 5 defenses, we need to be bringing on players that have Nat 5 offenses, right? And that's not necessarily the case. You guys can do everything we can do with Nat 3, Nat 4s, or whatever. Obviously, if you synergize your team well, if you put some high quality runes on, and do everything in your power to effectively set up a team to counter what it is you are currently seeing in the meta today. So I wanted to talk about some of the units that we do get in the light and dark realm, some of the more sought after Nat 3 units out there, and see how I go about doing it, and then see if it kind of helps you, assist you in making some of your compositions. Okay, so first one we're going to talk about is Eshir. Every single time I say Eshir, I have to pronounce it Eshir now. And again, I keep on dropping the sneak peek. Stay tuned for Sunday. You're going to know why I'm saying Eshir. So we got ourselves the Light Werewolf. For those that are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. If you're not familiar with the Light Werewolf, one of the most sought after units out there when it comes to Nat 3 Light and Dark units. So let's go over his skill set. We got the HP recovery for the first turn, the recovery of all allies by 50%, in addition to increasing the attack speed, and then of course Massacre, the bread and butter of the skill when it comes to being able to do some great damage. You can sit here to hit 4 times, proportionate to your max HP, damage proportionate to your max HP, and then having an opportunity to remove a beneficial effect with a 50% chance for each attack. And of course, the cooldown time resets if the enemy dies. And then again, we got a leader skill. One of the few units out there, if not the only unit, we can go controversial about that one, that has a leader skill for Guild Wars that effectively improves the unit at hand. Generally speaking, you see a lot of different units and whatnot that has a leader skill that can help them, but not as beneficial as it provides to other units that you have in your mix. But this is definitely the perfect leader skill for this unit, considering that his damage is based on max HP for that 3rd skill. So we'll take a look at my rune build. Going Rage Energy, HP, crit damage, HP. Is Rage Energy necessary? Of course not. We are in the misconception that we have to have a certain type of set when it comes to particular units in an effort to get what we need to get done. A lot of people will go, kind of hit me back and be like, well, why are you on Rage? Why aren't you on Violent? Well, violent energy on a unit like this, it's all comes down to what kind of compositions you're bringing to make a use of a violent set, effective. Okay, so let's talk about my particular Eshir and how I use it in the Guild Wars. You guys have been paying attention to my account for quite some time. I don't have all the best units out there, but I do have a nice combination of units that allow me to bring speed and power to whatever I bring, whoever I fight to the table. If I don't have AoE buff removals. Well, let me correction. I don't have a runed up AoE buff removal, right? I have Soha. I'm sure I have an equivalent somewhere, but I'm not currently using those. I'm waiting for other units that I can build to effectively, go with along my other units, the other teams that I have. And so with what I have runed now, right? I use a combination of things when it comes to Eshir. I use a fast comp or I use a slow comp, and the main one that you see me generally use is Theomar's, Orion, and then Eshir on the end. Okay, and so let's talk about his stats right here. Taking a look at him overall, we have ourselves 76% critical rate, 169 crit damage, and 41 HP before 41k HP before we even come into play with regards to the stats, right? Before we come into like the HP towers and the leader skills and so on and so forth. We have a lot of speed. Contrary to some people out there, they don't feel like a unit like this needs a lot of speed. It all depends on what you're bringing. If you're bringing a composition like Theomar's Orion, and then of course Eshir, you're going to have to do what you need to do to get his speed within range of the Orion, right? Most people say a safe bet, is rocking about 76% of your first, units going to the unit that's going with the attack bar, getting that 76% of that person's speed. At 235 speed, 170 speed on Eshir is more than enough, okay? And of course we have ourselves Theomars at 175 speed, so even though Eshir has a good amount of base speed, Theo is always going to go first in this particular situation, okay? Now let's take note on this particular setup here. When I run Theomars, Orion, and Eshir, I run Theomars at the lead. Okay, and this kind of goes down to going back to what we're talking about, max stats versus sets. Even though I have a set on here, right? I have two sets on here and it looks all pretty and stuff like that. That's great. But at the end of the day, more often than not, you will see a multitude of Eshirs out there with random units to effectively get the stats that you see today, right? So if you're trying to get yourself to a point where you say, what is an effective Eshir? I generally recommend to the people that are asking anywhere from 35k plus on HP, anywhere from 85% crit rate or more. I say in the 85 crit rate plus, I like 85 to 90, and then critical damage anywhere from 150, 160 plus is a good number to shoot for. Especially if you're not, it's hard to get because if you're not using like a rage set or whatever, you're going to have to work for it. But, at this stage and point, you're going to be getting a lot of runes, a lot of grindstones to effectively improve those runes. So I don't think that's too off the map. And so, kind of going back to, what we were talking about with this comp, we run Theomars at the lead versus Eshir. Why is that the case? We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that each of these four attacks do the damage that I intend him to do, right? This unit hits 4 different times. So that's 4 different chances to effectively miss your critical hit. If that's the case, seeing that is the case, you definitely want to make sure that you have, the most amount of critical rate you can when it comes to this unit. Because if you're doing what I'm doing, which is effectively taking an attack bar booster, a defense breaker, and then a shear to follow up and go for their threat, you need to make sure that you're doing max damage. This is a unit that if you don't do that max damage and kill the unit that you're effectively going for, you will not get the cooldown time reset. So let's take it for example. Do we take a set like this, or do we? Everybody's going childish. Everybody's going violent on this unit. Let's go violent. Violent does not make sense in this particular lineup because I am not running like a Galleon or something like that that has multiple defense breaks that he can apply on the unit. I'm focused on 1 to 2 specific units at the front, on the front where I'm going to get into that attack, and going for the unit that's going to provide me the most. Is going to be the biggest threat out of their team. I generally have 2 different threats that I go up against, but because I'm using Orion versus like a Bernard or like a Drake or something like that, is that Orion effectively can lock a unit down, defense break another, and then of course put the hit point disturb. What that means is that depending on what I'm bringing, what I'm going after, because Theomars and Eshir have no issues with regards to elemental, diversity. I can essentially focus Theomars to focus on one unit, and if I get a violent proc and one shot it, then I'm good. Leaving the defense break that Orion puts on another unit for Escher. Or if I have a composition I'm going for that screams, you better kill my unit the first turn, otherwise you're dead. Then of course I'm going to pummel that unit with Orion, Theomars, and Eshir effectively, making sure I get the defense break, and then of course follow up with this one. Because again, all this work into getting high hit points, high critical rate, high critical damage means nothing if you do not have a defense break to follow up with it. And so with regards to violent, yes, I like a violent set on this guy, but because of the way I use it, it's not optimal. It's not optimal. So, is that the only way to do that? Of course not. Your particular goal in mind would be, if you're going for a fast kind of composition like mine, then this is a nice way to go. If you're going for a slower composition, bring in a defense breaker, Eshir, and then some kind of prevention like a Chloe, or if you're rocking Will, with another type of unit, then that's okay. If you can set up a composition that's running, triple will with shield or whatever like that, and can soak up the first 10, then you're good. You don't need death prevention when it comes to Chloe. But if you're one of those fortunate few that maybe has a Theomars, maybe has a Eshir, but all you have is a Chloe, then that would be a good combination too. Of course, keep in mind that the top end guilds out there are synced up well. So whatever composition you do, whatever defense break you bring with Eshir, the defense break needs to be just a few speed over Eshir. You cannot let your opponent cut in between Eshir and Theomars. It is crucial that this unit is synced up with whatever unit you bring to the table to defense break after going on. And of course, if you can think of a composition that allows you to have multiple defense break in case Theomars breaks, then that's good. That's why I run Orion, because he brings the attack bar boosting that I want. He brings the defense break that I want, and he has that stun on the harmless prank that can effectively lock down another unit to allow me to focus on somebody else. Obviously, I have the opportunity. They have the opportunity to violent proc out of it if they're using a violent set, but that's okay. If I can make it a 3v2 fight early on, generally speaking, it'll go well. So again, fast Theomars, fast Eshir. Regardless if you use a fast comp or slow comp, your defense breaker needs to be a few speed, 1 to 2 speed, 2 to 3 speed over Eshir. And keep in mind that you need to consider the fact that his base speed is relatively higher than a lot of these other defense breakers out there. So making sure that you synergize them well, because you're working on you got your speed tower, whatnot. You may have a speed lead or something of the sort, and you have to do what you got to do. Could I run Eshir at the lead? Sure, right? I can get myself an extra 21% HP. But 21% HP means nothing if I'm not critically hitting every single time, which is why I recommend making sure that you generally have near 100% critical rate, if not, in that 85, 90% or more, because he's hitting multiple times. So you have to make sure every hit counts, okay? So moving on, we'll talk about Jultan, okay? Jultan here, this is going to be a unique build. I know that a lot of people are not expecting it, but as you guys saw from my last unit and rune showcase, if you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you check down below in the description. From now on, I am putting permanently the unit showcase for that month in the YouTube description, so you guys can see everything that I have for that month. Obviously, I make changes along the way, but if I haven't, it's going to be in that video there. And any video that I make prior to that or down the road, it's going to be updated, right? It's going to be updated so you can see the things. So, Violent Will, we got ourselves Jultan. Let's take a look before we get into the runes. Let's take a look at this build, right? Because again, this is a very underrated unit when it comes to Guild Wars. A lot of people don't take advantage of it. They feel like they can get away with it in the G1, G2 ranks, but this is an effective unit for G3 versus G3 and legend-based skills, okay? So, we got ourselves Jultan. If you're not familiar with the skill already, we have ourselves an ability that allows you to, again, provide the HP recovery. We have a skill set that will hit the unit 2 times, inflicting damage by the max HP, and then it improves to 40% 40% chance to stun the target each hit, in addition to having a 3-turn cooldown. So you can already tell flat out that a violence set for this particular unit, if we're trying to take advantage of this particular skill set, is going to be really, really strong. That's not even the half of it, right? We have the opportunity to inflict 12% damage on my max HP when you're attacked with a critical hit. Okay. And so when we're looking at these current stats running 36k HP, we're looking at effectively like around 52 to 5300 after my HP guild tower comes into play, after my max HP arena tower, the glory point tower comes into play, so on and so forth. So we're technically sitting at like about 40k HP with these stats. Now, could I make it a higher amount of hit points? Right? Yes, I could. But is that worth making it? Is it worth making it high HP with low defense? Not necessarily. If you've been seeing the trend when it comes to these last few months, not everybody is focused on just getting as much HP as possible. We're focused on getting effective HP, improving the effective HP, and that's looking at not just the hit points, but the defense of the unit to making it a well-balanced unit. And so if you take a look here, I literally got over 1,000 defense before any of my glory towers come into play, which is extremely good considering the fact that this unit's base defense is relatively low and is extremely squishy. If you look at a 40k Jultan that maybe your guildie has or maybe you have or whatnot, but it only has 500 defense, that 30k truly feels like that 40k truly feels like 30k when we're coming into play. Think about the Jultans that you find in the arena, or Guild Wars. Think about the Pernas that you find in the arena. Some of those units that have very, very low base state defense makes you feel like a champ on the inside because you're hitting it harder than any other unit, which means that your effective HP is definitely not, that unit's effective HP is definitely not as good as the other units, okay? So let's take a look at the last thing, which is something that is completely underrated, the attack speed of the ally monsters by 16%, okay? So why is this completely underrated? Because as you guys know, speed is king, and if you're going to be utilizing certain units in your particular sets, as I stated before at the beginning of this video, we have 3 spots to cover 4 different units functions when we're talking about PvP. So if we need to bring a defense breaker, if we need to bring a target that's going to allow you to focus their damage onto you, and if we need to bring something that is going to effectively increase the speed at which you're bringing other units, whether it's for death prevention, whether it's for just improving their overall damage, you know, so on and so forth, then this is a great unit to use. But I personally would not use this unit outside the leader position because I want to take advantage of its whole kit in addition to the speed lead. If you're not using this at the speed lead, you're using it for something else, I feel like you're losing out on it. You need to find another unit where you can use every aspect of it, okay? People don't bring in a Praha just to use the heals or just to use the buff removal. They're looking at using the heals, the buff removal, the leader skill. If they have a despair set on, they're looking for it to deny the opponent the turns. If they have nemesis set on it, they're looking to improve the speed at which they're effectively going. They're looking to get those critical rate substats to get those additional turns generated by the first skill that can improve your attack bar by critically hitting. Okay, they're looking at everything. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We have ourselves speed, HP, okay? Most people run triple HP, but again, let's go back to square one when we're talking about Eshir. If we're trying to do all the things that we're trying to do, we need to make sure that we got the effective HP where we needed to, but we got the speed to synergize the rest of our team with it, okay? Eshir, like I said before, you're going to need that defense breaker to go first before Eshir goes. But then with regards to Jultan is a unit that you need to make sure has 1 or 2 more speed before your damage dealing units versus after, like Eshir is going. And so obviously I need to do what I got to do to get the speed. As I stated before in many different videos, I don't have the rune quality that some of the people out there in the top 5 ranks do, so I got to make the best of what I got. I have to sacrifice HP on 2 in an effort to get the speed on here. And because I have a multitude of runes that gives me a reasonably decent amount of defense, then that allows me to make up for the lost HP by effectively improving the effective HP of this particular unit. Okay, so The combinations that I use this for this particular unit is a couple of different things. I use this unit as essentially a tank versus a team that has their main threat or threats um, of one single element, so to speak. So if I have a composition that has some kind of a Theo or some kind of like a Ciara Orion, something of the sort, or Ciara Chloe or some of the sort, whatever it is, I'm gonna bring a unit like this that I can take advantage of its passive, take advantage of its defense break, and take advantage of the will set to force the opponent's damage dealer to hit this unit. We know in the meta today that CR is a really strong unit out there with what it provides to the table. And so if you're looking at the top 10, top 5 guilds in a G3, you'll see this obviously G1, G2, but you see it more often than not in the top ranks. A lot of these people, if they have CR, they are effectively using it in their offense or defense. So if they're using it on the defense, bringing Jultan plus 2 fire-based units will allow you to let this particular unit CR force the attack on Jultan. He will miss the bomb because I'm running the will set, and then if I'm fortunate enough, he'll get the attack. He'll take a little bit of damage, anywhere from, generally speaking, the way how these CRs are ruined, anywhere from 10 to 25% damage, 20 to 25% damage. And then, of course, depending on the composition that you bring, I follow it up with a Jultan and then, of course, a damage dealer. The damage can be a Theomars. The damage dealer can be, in my particular situation, it's either Theomars or Kumar. Any fire-based unit. Obviously, the goal. Let me take that back. The Theomars works because I'll use a composition like a Chloe in combination with Jultan to give me the first turn, put up the shield, and then effectively prove it. But if I'm not using a Theomars, I'm using Jultan plus 2 fire units to force the attacks on Jultan and get the additional damage from the passive, in addition to having the opportunity to hit the defense break and then follow up with like a Kumar, third skill, so on and so forth. So in this particular recommendation, I like Jultan at the lead, and I like Jultan. I do like Jultan with the will versus what I see versus CRs. Now, if you find yourself not in that, maybe you're using a very very speedy Chloe, and you don't have to be worried about anybody outspeeding you, then you can opt for a revenge set on this particular unit. And let's go ahead and go talk about the rune builds. Right, we talked about Eshir being optimal, just focusing on the max stats versus sets. Yes, he does have a set on, but it's not necessary. Do what you got to do to get the stats you need. Jultan, on the other hand, I feel like there is a little bit more reasoning for trying to focus on the sets, so to speak. I'm a big fan of Violent Revenge. Believe it or not, I'm a big fan of Triple Revenge, because again, if you're using it in the way I'm saying you're using it, where you use it to force your opponent to attack him at hand, getting any additional opportunities to proc a defense break as well as a hit point disturb, because as you guys know, you get the opportunity to weaken the offense for one turn with a passive, in addition to having the hit point disturb, is forcing two different harmful effects on the unit. And of course, if they got a Vermos or whatnot or whatever, they're not going to be able to remove those right quickly. And so getting those additional harmful effects off your turn allows you to have those defense breaks on when your unit is available and take advantage of a quick kill. Reason being is because this particular unit provides only a 1 turn defense break or hit point to serve, versus 2 turns. It's extremely strong to get those additional procs with regards to in between your turns from a revenge bot. Now, revenge means nothing if you're not setting up your unit to take a hit and do the damage. If you have another composition that you're bringing and you're running the triple revenge, right, Jultan means nothing if the other opponent is hitting other units. So I like a violent revenge on him. I like a violent will if you're using it in a situation I'm using it, and then I like a double revenge or triple revenge if you're truly using it as an effective HP built tank to take hits and give the opportunity to take advantage of the passive, in addition to providing you additional defense breaks and hit point to serve so that your 2 units that you bring along with this can do more damage than was expected. All right, that is pretty much it that I wanted to make note on the Jultan. Again, this is just the beginning when it comes to some of these recommendations. We will provide more recommendations for you as they come along. So what we'll go ahead and do with regards to this video is finish off with a small clip of a opponent in a G3 Legend Rank guild where I use this situation effectively, so you guys can see an example of it. If you have any questions on Eshir and Jultan and how to use it, please put it in the comment section down below. If you found this unit, if you found this video helpful, please like the video and go ahead and share it with your friends. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Critical Thinking. I appreciate you guys' support as always. It's your boy Childish with ChildishPlays checking out. We will see you in the next Critical Thinking video. Bye-bye.